the Munro Review, where it's all about connecting, sharing, and valuing the arts in the central San Joaquin Valley. I'm Donald Munro. Today is December 20th, and we're going to be talking about January's busy art scene. In just a few minutes, we're going to be chatting with some special guests about the new production of Spring Awakening coming to the Selma Arts Center on January 26th, and we're going to get two musical performances from cast members. But first, let's recap some of what I've been covering on MunroReview.com. There was lots of theater in December, and I'll share some highlights for you. At Good Company Players, I was mightily impressed with Dan Pisano's all-new production of A Christmas Carol. This brisk and lean adaptation of the famous tale whipped along, but it had some time for some creative visual techniques and some scary ghosts, thanks to Joey Adams' lighting design. Noel Adams makes a robust Scrooge, laying on the crankiness in the first third of the show, then transforming into a pussycat for the rest. Among the standouts, I was especially taken with Daniel Sutherland as a charming ghost of Christmas past, Benjamin Getter as a pleasant Fred, Noah Miranda as young Scrooge, Paige Tucker as a charming Belle, and of course, Vinnie Fulmer as a cute-as-a-button Tiny Tim. Another stellar show was Fresno State's The Two Gentlemen of Verona, directed by Brad Myers. I loved how he set the Shakespeare play at the end of the 1950s. He and his designers created a contrast between old-fashioned backwater Verona, where the gents, played very well by Stephen Weatherby and Kai Domino, live, and the big glamorous city of Milan, where they travel to make their fortunes. The show was elevated by its two leading ladies, played by Alyssa Benitez and Lauren Folland, as the put-upon Julia and the glamorous Sylvia, respectively. They each gave the best performances I've seen from them at Fresno State. Overall, I thought the production was fresh and insightful, and Myers figured out a way to shift the problematic ending into something thoughtful and dramatic. I also reviewed the production of Annie at Children's Musical Theater Works. It's not my favorite CMT Annie I've seen over the years, but it still had a lot of heart. I was impressed with Dan Aldape and Kellery Aldape as a sassy and commanding Rooster and Lily, the con artists who claim Annie as their daughter. And there was great chemistry between Eric Estep as Daddy Warbucks and Elizabeth Burbage, who played Annie at the performance I intended. But the choreography and direction just fell a little flat in this production. And I'm mixed on Good Company's Breaking Up is Hard to Do, a Neil Sedaka jukebox musical that is running through January 14th. There's some good acting and singing. The strongest in the cast are Tim Smith, Melanie Heil, and Nicholas Nunez. But the storyline is just plain dumb. I'd only recommend this show to hardcore Sedaka fans. And in case you didn't hear the news, Broadway star Audra McDonald will be joining her hometown orchestra for the first time in a May concert with the Fresno Philharmonic. McDonald, of course, is known for winning more Tony Awards on Broadway than any other performer. She got her start in the junior company players at Roger Rocca's Dinner Theater, going on to perform in some of Good Company's main stage shows, and she also performed at the Roosevelt School of the Arts. She last performed in Fresno in 2011 when she gave a concert for Fresno Grand Opera at the Warner's Theater. McDonald will stop at the Soroyan Theater on May 26th on a West Coast swing of her concert tour. Now, let's move on to our guests from Spring Awakening at the Selma Arts Center. Welcome to director Dominic Grijalva and actors Kendall Lynn Cowger and Kai Domino. Welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being here. I know that this is an interesting thing for you to do because you've only been in rehearsal for like a week and a half, because you're basically a month out from your run. So you're still kind of in those beginning stages.
Yeah, they're strictly vocals right now. They actually start choreography tomorrow.
Okay, well, great. So Spring Awakening, that was a big hit on Broadway. It is known for launching the careers of some famous folks. Tell us about that.
Well, the show, Spring Awakening, is about, it tells the story of a group of adolescents growing up in 19th century Germany. And they're all going through puberty and dealing with everything that entails. So a lot of them are dealing with their changing bodies. There's a lot of emotions running rapid. And they basically you get to take a close look into the lives of these kids and what each one is struggling with. Some are having problems at home, others are having problems at school, some are lusting after their friends, some are lusting after their teachers, and it's very raucous and fun, but it's also heavy in some instances. And so there's a level of high octane energy, and there's also this really great level of integrity and honesty that sort of weaves throughout the entire piece.
So I know that you were in Spring Awakening a few years ago. There was a production at Children's Musical Theater Works. Mm-hmm. Tell us about what you did in the show, and at that point, did you know that you maybe wanted to direct this someday?
Well, I did the show with CMT. Like you said, it was 2012, and I played the role of Georg, who's another one of the schoolboys in the show. And at the time, I didn't think that I would ever direct, period, much less a production of this show. Directing sort of a new thing for me. I've only been doing it for about 3 years now. But I was so in love with the story and was having such a great time. When I auditioned for that show back then, what drew me was the music and how much fun it was. And in doing the show, I got to learn about how beautiful the message of the show was, and I just fell in love with the themes and the emotional through line and everything that the show stands for. And when I was performing in it, it was the first time I got to be in a cast of people who were the same age as me, who were at the same point of my life and our so-called careers at that point. And so we were sort of this community of young adults all getting to put on this show that was for us. And there was something so special about that. And so when I was picking a title to bring to the Selma Arts Center this season, when it got brought up, someone had mentioned it to me, it really struck me, and I remembered that time, and I thought I would love to give that same opportunity and that same chance to tell this story to a new group of young actors around here, because they're sort of the lifeblood of the community.
It's a very popular show to do, mm-hmm. and it's one that I'm sure that you had a lot of people audition.
Yes,
for this
one
production.
One of our biggest turnouts ever.
Now, Kai, I know that you told me that you were at that CMT production. What do you remember about it? And did you think to yourself, I want to be in this?
I absolutely thought that I wanted to be in it, but I also was struggling at the time. The auditions came around for that show, and I had first heard the music at 14 when it came out, so I just totally enthralled, and then it came to Fresno. I was super excited, and I got the thing that many actors experience, which was the stage fright the day of auditions, and I ended up bowing out. And I always vilified myself for that, so I made a pact with myself then after seeing the show that I absolutely had to go on audition the next time that came into town.
So, Kendall, you didn't get to see that CMT show, is that right?
That's right.
And why is that?
My mom would not let me.
Now you're all grown up now, so she's letting you do this. So tell us about the character you play, and you and Kai play the romantic leads, I guess, in this show.
We do. I play the character Vendla. She is very naive to everything. She knows nothing because her mother will tell her nothing, and she begs her mother to inform her on how life happens and on how things happen, but her mother won't tell her because she's too scared to tell her. And it was also very inappropriate, apparently, to talk about that with your children back then. So she just knows nothing about anything. So she's with her friends, and she hears things from her friends that they're going through that she doesn't know anything about. And I see Venla as a very knowledge-hungry girl. She just wants information. She wants to know things, and she wants to know how things happen. But it's not happening for her because nobody will tell her how anything happens.
So Kai, you play Melchior.
That's correct.
And he's interested romantically in Kendall's character.
Absolutely. I think Melchior finds interest in all things. He takes it upon himself to try and know everything about anything. And he definitely sees himself as more of a hero in that way, in the way he tries to also pass on the things that he learns, because he has the advantage of, in his home life, as opposed to many other characters in the show, to go and pursue the things that he wants to. He's given that freedom, and he wants to be able to pass on that freedom to other people. But it's important to remember that Melchior is not really quite the hero you want to see in this show. He's a good guy trying to pass on the things that he's learned, but not everyone is always ready and for their own awakening. And he tends to force his way through, and that's what kind of really starts to spiral for him.
Now, Dom, we only have a few seconds left, but tell us when the show opens, how long does it run for, and it is for adults. Is that correct?
Well, I try not to discourage younger people from seeing the show because I think there's a great deal of lesson to be learned for both young and old. But the show opens on January 26th at the Selma Arts Center. It runs for 3 weekends and closes on February 10th. And you can get tickets online at selmaartscenter.com. You can call the box office at 891-2238. Tickets are being sold from now until the start of the performance.
Great. Well, I know that it is a very must-see title for theater lovers in the Valley, and I think everyone's looking forward to it. For our next segment, let's take a look at the list. Here's a selection of things to do during the busy month of January. Among them, Jane Austen fans take note. Fresno State professor Kathleen McKinley is doing a guest directing gig at Good Company's Second Space Theater. She's bringing us none other than Sense and Sensibility. This is a new adaptation that the New York Times called a romp that, quote, expands and magnifies Austen's delicate comic worldview without cracking a single teacup. It opens January 4th. Broadway in Fresno slips in at the very end of the month with a national tour of Kinky Boots, which opens January 31st at the Soroyan Theater. This first-rate musical has an unlikely premise. It's about an English shoemaking factory that ends up making footwear for transvestites. It's funny, empowering, and has some great music. Cyndi Lauper wrote the songs, and it's still playing on Broadway 5 years later. I expect that ticket sales will be brisk. Now, are you guys looking forward to seeing Kinky Boots? I think it's on an off night for you.
Absolutely.
Have any of you seen it?
No.
I haven't.
I got to see it on Broadway, and it's pretty cool.
I almost saw it when I was in New York, but it got away from me.
It's one not to miss. It's a busy month for Good Company players and a busy couple of months for Annie. GCP opens its production of Annie on January 18th. The cast will be visiting Easy Street for a nice long run. Now, here are 2 quirky little theater pieces for you. Curie Me Away is a radioactive musical based on the science, life, and legacy of Madame Marie Curie. And Calculus, the musical, is about, well, calculus. Both are titles from veteran Rogue Festival performer Sadie Bowman, who was a big hit in recent years for the Rogue show's The Famous Haydel Sisters Comeback Tour and Shinatra. Her current project is science-themed musicals that she tours to high schools, colleges, museums, and theaters nationwide. You can catch performances of both shows on one afternoon only at the Vista Theater in the Tower District on January 14th. For classical music enthusiasts, here are some events to consider. Keyboard Concerts brings acclaimed organist Kimberly Marshall to Fresno State on January 7th. The Pacific Artist Series at Fresno Pacific University continues on January 25th, and the Fresno Philharmonic performs January 28th. On the program is a piece by Fresno State composition professor Kenneth Froelich. And finally, don't forget that the Fresno Art Museum will be opening a new round of exhibitions on January 27th. It includes an exhibition by noted Fresno artist Marcos Dorado. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll have a performance by Selma Arts Center's Spring Awakening. And now here's Selma Arts Center's cast of Spring Awakening performing Touch Me.
there, no more memory anymore. Only drifting on some ship, the wind that whistles off the distance to shore. Where I go, when I go there, no more listening anymore. Hymns upon your lips, a mystic wisdom rising with them to shore. Touch me just like that, and not oh yes, now that's heaven, now that I like, God that's so nice, no farther down where the figs lie.
Oh my God, oh yeah.
Still, you must admit, with all the differing genitalia truly is daunting. I mean, how everything might measure up. Fit? Not that I'm saying I wouldn't want to, wouldn't ever want to not, would ever not. Moritz, I have to go. Moritz, wait. Moritz. When I go there, no more shadows anymore. Only you there in the kiss. Nothing be seen as you're drifting to shore. There I come. When I go there, no more weeping anymore. Only in and out your lips, the broken wishes washing with them to shore. Touch me,
All silent,
all silent.
baby, just
Tell me, please,
all is forgiven. Touch,
consume my mind, consume my mind. I'll tell you how.
there I go, there I go. Touch me.
Just try it.
Now that's it.
Now there, that's it. Oh,
That's heaven. Touch
I
your light.
love you right. We'll wander down
Where the seas cry. Touch me.
Oh,
Just like that.
oh,
Now lower down. Where the seas cry. Love me.
yeah.
Just for a bit. Wander down where the wind sighs. Where the wind sighs. Where the wind sighs. Where the wind sighs.
That was wonderful. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll have another performance by Selma Arts Center's Spring Awakening. And now here's Selma Art Center's cast of Spring Awakening performing the Song of Purple Summer.
Listen to what's in the heart of a child, a song so big and one so small. Soon you will hear where the beauty lies. You'll hear and you'll recall the sadness, the doubt, all the loss, the grief will belong to some play from the past. As a child leads away to a dream, a belief, a time of hope through the land. A summer's day, a mother sings a song of purple summer through the heart of everything. And heaven waits, so close it seems, to show her child the wonders of a world beyond her dreams. The earth will wave with corn. The day so wide, so warm, and theirs will neigh with stallions that they mate, foals they born, and all shall know the wonder of purple summer. And yet I wait, the swallow brings a song of what's to follow, the glory of the spring. The fences sway, the porches swing, clouds begin to thunder, crickets wander murmuring. The earth will wave with corn. The day so wide, so warm, and theirs will neigh with stallions that they mate, foals they born, and all shall know the wonder. I will sing the song of purple summer. All shall know the wonder. I will sing the song of purple summer. All shall know the wonder of purple summer.
That was fantastic. And that wraps it up for this month's episode of the Munro Review. Be sure to keep up online at www.munroreview.com. And thank you to our volunteer crew. Thanks again to our guests, Dominic Grijalva, Kendall Lynn Cowger, Kai Domino, and the cast members from Spring Awakening. And thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.